Hi, this is Jeff the Big Hairy Dog, and this is a webinar on version 8 physical inventory. Um, okay, in physical inventory, you're basically dealing with 4 steps, right? So I've sort of written them out here. Basically, though, you could distill this down to four single steps. Start, which captures your physical the book value, right? It freezes the book value. We'll explain that more. Go count the product that freezes the physical value, right? Then compare the two and find out if there's any mistakes, fix them, and update. That's it. So start, count, discrepancies or differences, and then update. That's the whole process. Okay. Um, there's a great deal of prep, which I'm not going to go into, but I strongly recommend that the environment you're counting be cleaned up, all tags on all items, create zones and put them on a map, and know your plan, how you're going to count. Uh, Label the zones prior to the actual day of physical inventory, the night before or whatever. Um, it's 85% prep, honestly. So anyway, to start a physical, and I have a demo environment here in the background. You can see that by the red bar at the bottom. If I go into tools and I go to, sometimes it's in the main tools menu, but more than likely it's not in the main menu. It's in the more tools, more RPro PI, right? That's how we get to the physical inventory tool in version 8. It's a bolt-on tool. It's in the tools menu. And we launch it, and for some reason it's launching way the heck over here. That's fine. So there's our physical inventory tool. I am going to peek my nose into options, system preferences for a second so I can take a look at this one preference, and I'm set up to use zones. So I strongly recommend the use of zones with a few exceptions. If it's a really, really small store that only has a limited number of SKUs, then simple mode could work pretty well. But generally speaking, zones are probably the preferred method. Um, Down here, you see we have some import maps that I put in for different projects, different times. And you can import accounts into your zones if you have a outside scanner, or if you wanted to count really expensive items in Excel or something like that, and then import the account. Enough said on that for the moment. Um, okay, so let's go to physical and stores, and there's no physical started yet, so we'll click new and start a new one, right? And I don't know that it matters which one I do here. This is all raw demo type data. I'm just going to start store 1, and you could put a note in here or not. Just click OK, and it goes out and creates the physical. So that's step 1. Step 1 is complete. We do not need to do anything else on step 1, but we are going to take a peek at step 1. So I'm going to highlighting this one. I'm going to go into inventory, and we're going to look. Now, again, this is a demo copy of Retail Pro 8, so it reset all the quantities to 10 this morning. So everything has a 10 in every store, right? Um, and of course, I just started this, so we haven't counted anything. So we are short everything, right? So just to be clear, when you hit the start button, everything in this column right here, right, in the quantity on hand column, gets copied into a count sheet that it just created, right, into this column here, the start column, right? And of course, we just started it. We haven't counted anything, so we're short everything, right? That's how you start. That's a good, clean start. Okay, so step 2 would be to go count some stuff, right? So if I back out further, I'm using zones, so we would go into zones, and we could create a zone. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab some stuff so we can set up. Yeah, it's upset about the web browser there. Sorry about that. Okay, I shouldn't have clicked in the middle here. And I didn't think I did, but apparently I did. So let's just get through that. So FYI, in version 8, there's an embedded Internet Explorer version 6. And that's what this is right here, right? So and of course, I don't see the one I'm looking for, but if we go to up here, I believe I got I think there's a browser home button, right, that you can go to. Anyway, okay, so I'm just going to take I'm going to take a few of these numbers here, but you can see the numbers here I've got. Any of these numbers would work, right? So let's just create an import file. So let's say new text document. And where did my text document go? Well, we can just go in here and do one, right? Yeah, let's just do it here. All right, so all right, so there's a few items, right? So if we go back into this physical inventory tool, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an import file so we can mimic what a scanner would be like real quick, because I don't have a scanner and I'm physically not at the location and we can't scan. But scanning is a whole thing that you would need to get set up ahead of time. So if you rent scanners or you have scanners, you definitely want to check those scanners the day before, at least a day or if not a week before the physical inventory. Make sure all your scanners are working and that they import and everything's technically working, right? So let's hop into our preferences again real quick. Yeah, so starting on character 1, ending on character 6 for a length of 6, skipping the comma that will be there, starting on character 8, ending on 12 for a length of 5 will be the count, no zone names, no sublocations, and these will be item numbers. Perfect. So that first one works. So let's hop back in here. Let's put our commas in there for comma delimited, right? And let's put some various quantities on these, right? Now you guys probably noticed the oddball one in the middle there, right? That is intentionally put in there to be an error, right? I mean, I only have like 84 items in this fake inventory, so that's definitely not going to work, right? That's just, I'm just going to say up front. So we're going to say file, save as, and let's put this in, say, the desktop zones. Oh, nice. We already have something out there sort of called, all right. So V8 item, V8 item zone, we'll say 1 here, right? And file save. Well, it's good to have more than one of these, by the way. We'll just change this to zone 2. So we got a few of these we can play with, right? All right, so I think I can close that now. And let's go back into our step 2 here process, right? So we would look at the map. We would go find the section we want to count. We would take a scanner in a perfect world. We would go over and we would scan left to right, top to bottom. We would come back, and over here, then the person running the physical would click new, say which store they're in, say what the zone designation was. You get 5 characters here, right? So, you know, if you're doing store 1, you could do like, you know, 1 for here, dash 105 or whatever you want to do, right? Or you could do 1, store 1, men's 45, whatever you want to do. You got, you could get rid of the dash and do 1 men's 450, right? You can do whatever you want. You got 5 characters, but you know, zone names should have meaning. If you look at the zone name, you should be able to know roughly where that zone is, right? In here, typically, all I would put is I would put, you know, men's tops or whatever, and then I'd put, you know, maybe who scanned it. Because if we have a problem and we want to know who scanned things, and somebody's having a problem scanning, hey, there's plenty to do. They could retag product, they could reface product. There's lots to do in physical inventory time. There's you don't have to be the guy that's actually doing it. So in here we could manually import this. We could manually key these in one at a time. We could import them, or we could go to the portable terminal and if we had configured a scanner, we could upload a scanner, right? Which we have not. So I am going to highlight that map right there. I'm going to browse out to my desktop. I'm going to get off data files and go to look for text files. I can see the one I just created there, right? I'm going to click open and I'm going to say import. And we're going to click close. Okay, and we are in, yes, we're looking at our zones. So at the zone level, we can't see in the zone yet, but we can see it's got a red dot. And the red dot indicates that there's an error at scanning. So if you have a smart scanner that has the database in it, then you're going to detect an error when you scan the item, and you're going to pull it out and set it aside. If you have a dumb scanner, and many of them are dumb scanners, they just collect the barcodes, valid barcodes with quantities, and upload them, and then Retail Pro interprets it and says, hey, I don't understand what that barcode is. You know, you scanned a UPC code that was not entered into Retail Pro, and it doesn't have a match for the item, right? So in here, we can see the scanned items here, right? Let's back up one. We can go to the errors here. Now, the bad scan is being bracketed by the items that were scanned before and after it, right? So if we go back and look at in here, we look at so it renamed that file. Here's 2 though, it's exact copy, right? So you see here that in my upload file, I uploaded 12 right before the bad scan and 13 right after, right? So you see in my zone error report here, right? It's trying to tell me where those bad scans are, where that it's between these 2 items. You scan this one first and then you scan this one after. So if you go find those 2 items, you will probably find this barcode on that shelf somewhere, right? That's the reality. Now, that being said, I want to make sure we understand what that means. So let's say that right down here, this is my example. I'm scanning beep, I'm scanning beep, I'm scanning beep, right? I scan a bad item, I keep scanning, right? And then when I go to look at those records, which would be the items that would be considered bracketing items? What's the before? Well, the before appears to be 789 and the after appears to be 123, except it would not be. It would be 789 before and 852 after, because this record here would not exist. It's already created a record in the scanner. So the scanner would say, okay, there's 2 of those, right? And it would not ever create that record there, if that makes sense to everybody. So understand that when you go out there, the bad scan will be between these 2 items, but there may be more than one item in between those 2 items, right? Depending on how you merchandise, vertical blocking, all that stuff, and you're going left or right across shelves, just understand that there could be way more than one item in there, right? So if you know how to fix this item, so then you'd fix it or you'd get rid of it, right? So what's going to happen is we're gonna probably want to print this out, and we have doc designs. You have to contact one of our tech support guys. We can give you doc designs for any of this stuff, right? So you print this out. You have let's zoom in a little bit here so we can all see it maybe. There we go. Maybe a little more. We can see the import ID on the far right-hand side, and we can see the description of the items, right? So we could go find that item, and when we find it, it's either going to have a correct barcode or it's not going to have a correct barcode. Really, that's all that can happen, right? So if it has a barcode, then back here, we click edit and we put that new number in, right? If it doesn't have a barcode, then we physically pick the item up, we take it out of this zone, we put it into a zone that we call the trouble area, and we delete this item out of this zone. So we're not going to hold up a zone for one bad item or even 5 bad items. We're going to pull those items out put them in a trouble area, and somebody will retag those as we continue on scanning other zones. And at the end, we'll scan that zone last, right? You got to keep the train moving forward. So I could say yes and it would be gone, or I could say no here, and I could say edit, and I could say let's make this be I don't know 0000020. I don't think I put that one there. Let's press enter, and okay, this will correct the scan error. Do you want to update this? Okay, I do. Right, and save, and then if I go to scans, that item is now in my scans, right? And I think the error is, well, they should refresh her at some point. But the point is that now if we back up, the red dot is gone, right? So now we would go into scans, we would print this out, right? And we would take this out to the field and verify whatever portion of this was relevant, right? So physical inventory, it's about minimizing mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. I'm not going to lie. Everybody makes mistakes. So you need to check the scans to see if somebody is scanning poorly and make corrections where necessary, or switch them out to do some tagging, right? You got to sample the data. I don't know if you can afford to do a 100% double count like we used to do back in the old days in retail, but you should at least sample the data, right? You should print it out, have somebody go check a few, and if they come back and say everything looks good, then we're going to accept it and move on. If they're not right, so if they went out and checked it, we found a mistake, we said okay, edit. Okay, this item here was not 45; it was item 45. There was only one of those. I could change this here to 1, right? And then I could say save, and then I could come down here and say add counts. I'm going to manually enter item 45. So I'm going to say 45, enter. Of course, I put it in quantity 1. I'm going to change that to, I can just change it here, actually. I could have changed it before I pressed enter, or I could just change it here, right? Click OK. So I just added item 45. Actually, probably should have been a quantity 1, huh? Anyway, you get where I'm going here, right? The point is you can change the quantities and you can add other SKUs, and you could, if somebody said there's 12 on this peg hook, scan the first item, and then somebody came behind him and said, yeah, but the back 6 are totally different. I could go change the 12 down to a 6, like right there. I could change that down to a 6 if I wanted to, and then I could add the other SKU in there, right? I could say add count, put in item 15. This time let's hit the tab key and let's put a 6 in there, right? And enter. If you're doing a lot of these, you can switch the mode to this mode here, by the way. So then you could put in like 000021, enter 5, enter 22, enter 2 or 1, enter. You see what I mean? It just lets you do 10 key, sort of kind of handy. Anyway, that's just some tips about inputting stuff. Now, once this has been dialed in and we believe that the count is accurate as it can be, we've scanned it, we've double checked it, we've made any corrections we feel are necessary, then we would accept this zone, right? So by accepting it, I mean merge it. I generally would merge them one by one. You can mark them all and merge them at once, but the blue dot is good then. The blue dot has been merged and is ready to move on, right? So to run through that process, you click new, you say which store you're in. If you're doing more than one store, be careful. You put in, whatever section you got here, I'm going to say M100 and put in some notes here about what it is. Men's, tees, and that crazy guy Jeff is scanning. All right, so let's click OK. Let's highlight our map here, and let's go grab the other file. And of course, it starts on data files, but in fact, this is a text file. So I'm going to grab the text file, click open, click import, click close. If you got a red dot, that means you have errors. You have to go to the error. You can go find the item and move it or correct it. I'm going to delete this one and say that I moved it to the trouble area. Go to scanned, print out this, and put it in a stack for someone to go and verify. And you could even highlight some random items in here or items that are known to be a problem and have them check specific items. You know, you want to get a good sample, right? If they come back and say it's all good, then we would then merge that zone in, checking it off with the blue dot to say that it's good, right? So with this process would just continue until we have scanned all of the zones, right? So step 2 is count, right? If there are errors, locate the errors and correct or delete them. Clear the scanner. If you have a dumb scanner, you have to clear that zone out. Otherwise, you're going to stack more stuff on top of it and upload the first zone twice, right? If it's a smart scanner and has multiple zone capability, then you don't have to do that. That's just going to depend on the scanner, and I can't really go over all the options there. You'd have to get like an appointment right before you're about to use the scanner and make sure you're dialed in on that. Print out the good scan, double check what you can, merge the zone, right? That's it. That's step 2. So then we would move on to step 3. Now, this line here in my notes is very, very important. This line has to do with when can I open the store and start making sales. That's what that line means. So you have to count everything that's in the store when you hit that start button, right? That's the deal. Now, let's look at a couple of examples. So down here, let's say that we start with 10 and we have not counted anything, so we're short 10 and the on hand is 10. We go out and we count 8. Okay, everybody's on board. Good. Yeah. Okay, the difference goes to -2. All right, that's good. Our on hand is still 10. Now, what that means, or the way this thing works, shall we say, the new quantity here is going to equal the current quantity plus the difference. Okay, does that work? Okay, so here we have current quantity 10, and when we add -2, hey, we get 8. That matches my count. That actually works. What if I sold 5 and my on hand changed to 5? Does it still work? Okay, well, 5 plus -2 is 3. If I had 8 and I sold 5, I would have 3. So yes, it works, right? What if I sell one before I count them? Then I would only be able to count 8. I would get a variance of 3. My on hand would have been changed because I sold one, so it'd be 9. The math no longer works. 9 plus -3 is 6, not 7. So the physical inventory and the receipt that I sold the item on are both taking the item out of inventory. So you have to count that item that you sold, right? You've got to count everything in the store. At the moment you hit that start button, it freezes inventory in the count sheet, and you have to count everything that's there, period. So there are different ways to manage that process. You could come in early, hit the floor. You're down to the back row, you open the doors. If somebody wants to buy something off the back row, you scan it before they take it to point of sale. Then you continue on with the physical in the stockroom, or vice versa. You close at 6 and you've already started counting the stockroom, right? You started like 3 and you got to just load those scanners up and roll the dice on whether they're going to be a nice, good upload. But I've seen that work many times. So that basically the stockroom's scanned, I lock the doors, I hit the start button on the physical, I dump all the data from the warehouse or the stockroom into the physical, and then I start hitting the floor, right? So there's ways to manage this process, but you need to have a plan. You need to know how you're going to manage the process. Just being open and having people buy things randomly and have no way of knowing what was counted prior or post it being sold, right, is not a good plan. You're going to have variances. No question. All right. So anyway, we are past the line. We're now into discrepancies. So we could pop the doors open and we could go make sales. Let's back out. Let's go back into the store side. And in the store side, we have discrepancies. Of course, everything's a discrepancy for me because I counted what, 6 items? Maybe 10? I don't know. Anyway, up here you would print. And I've created different, these are really old now, but I've created different design files to break out your discrepancies in different ways, right? So I'm going to choose the department one. We're going to preview it. This is taking the primary department, not this class and subclass. I could change that, but this is taking the primary department, right? And it's showing us all of the discrepancies, and then it's subtotaling for each department so that you can make a plan of attack, right? You can say, little Susie, you're going to go do men's, and little Johnny, you're going to go do women's, and whatever you want to do, right? You can give different departments to different people. You can highlight different items you want to have checked, right? So now they go out, they find some mistakes, right? In version 8 here, you can actually, I believe, just fix them right here. So I think I can just type in, 10 here if I want, right? And just press enter. You could also make a new zone. I can tell you what everybody does is they just fix it here. It does not leave a good audit trail. But if you know what you're doing and you're dotting your I's and you're crossing your T's and you're in careful control of this, then you should be fine, right? If you make a typo and you forget what you did, then there's nothing backing you up here, right? So you would go through and correct anything that you found that was wrong, right? You'd go into and add in whatever amounts you need to add in here, right? And then you'd save this. And once you feel like you've accomplished all the corrections that you can find, that the count is as good as it's going to be, right? Then back here, you would click at the physical inventory level, not inside discrepancies, right? You would do an update. Now, some people like to go see the numbers before they update. So be careful here. I'm just going to warn you. If you're in discrepancies, and let's see if we can illustrate this better. So in Paint, do I even have a Paint here? Let's see here. Okay, it's over on another screen. Nice. Gotta love it. That's what happens when you remote and you have too many screens, right? All right, so let's say that this is your entire inventory, right? But of this inventory, only like a quarter of these items were counted incorrectly. Some of the items had 0 and we didn't count them, and that's fine. And some of the items had a count and then we were correct. We counted the right amount, right? So when we're in discrepancy mode, that's all we're seeing. We're seeing the start and end quantities of just the bad items. You follow? So if I'm in discrepancy and I print this report here, right? And I say preview, and I go look at the last page, it shows me some nice numbers, but these are just the bad items. You follow? If you want to see the real picture, go to inventory, right? Now you can, I don't have any items, but if you have some items, and you have a lot of items, and most people have a fair number of items. If you go to filtered view and clear your filter, there's a switch down here at the bottom. So if you want to make the report run faster on the entire inventory, click into the filtered view, clear it, and then say exclude 0 items. Items that are completely 0 all the way across. No start count, no difference, no nothing, right? Just exclude those out. And then go print and choose either the one by department or the one by vendor. We'll do vendor this time since we did department last few times, right? And then kick that out and then go to the last page, and you'll see the actual proper numbers, including all good items and bad items, right? And then you'll have your numbers. A lot of people like to do that before they accept it. Anyway, to accept it, you just go to update, and you check off the location you're going to update. You click the little next button, and here's where everybody gets screwed up. Do we leave it here on only the items that have a physical count, or do we switch it to all items? So if I had an item that had 2 and I counted nothing, it would have a discrepancy of -2, right? But it wouldn't have a count. Now, if I didn't count it, it's because I don't have it. So if it has 2, it should be reset to 0, and it should be reported as shrink, right? So I have to do all items. Does that make sense to everybody? Because if you do this one, you're going to leave a lot of erroneous items in your inventory. This is a rare inventory where I'm doing a physical count on 12 random items. I just want those items to be updated, right? So you're doing the whole store, or if you're doing a filtered inventory to one department, a cycle count, it's always going to be all items in the filtered area, right? So we say all items. Add some notes if you want to, click next. Pick a reason code for your physical inventory update. Typically, I don't know why I don't have any, but this is a demo copy. So typically, physical or PI 2024, whatever you want to do. I like to have a reason in the menu that I use all the time for filtering purposes and reporting. So I'm going to click next, and it's going to say, hey, finished. I'm going to say finished. It's going to show us the filter. So if I was doing a cycle count and I was only doing one department here, I could now go filter for that department, right? And only affect that department. I'm not doing a cycle. I'm doing the whole thing. So I'm going to make sure I clear this filter because filters are dangerous, and click OK. And it's going to do the update. And we're going to click OK. And there it is, gone. The physical has been burned. It's now it's in archived, right? If we go into archive and go to stores, we're going to see that physical we just did today, right? And we could go back into it and look at it and run reports on it if we want to. They're not really reports, they're doc designs, but nonetheless, if we go back into Resale Pro and go to merchandise, actually just adjustments in this version, memos, we should see that there was an adjustment memo created, right? Now, adjustment memos can hold 900 SKUs. So if you make an update to physical inventory and there is more than 900 SKUs being updated, it will make more than one memo, correct? If you had 3,000 items being adjusted, you'd have 4 memos, right? It'd do 900, 900, 900, and then it would do the remaining 300, right? It would go 900, 1800, 2700, and it would have that 300 left to get to 3,000. And now those last 300 would fall on the fourth memo. Right, so you can see the value that's been adjusted because Retail Pro lives by the same rules we do. You can't change inventory on hands without leaving an audit trail, right? And you could go out and run reports on those, right? So there is such a thing as reports on adjustments, right? I don't know if I've got any loaded, but apparently I don't have any reports loaded. So quantity adjustments, right? If we can even, no, it's not even going to let us play with that. I have reported on adjustments before. This is kind of a quick webinar we're doing. If you do want to report on them, and I do recommend you report on them, I could show you how. My name is Jeff. You could set up an appointment. I could show you how to do a ranked report by department code that would show you your departments that were the worst and departments that were the best, and or vendors that were the worst and vendors that were the best, and then the items or styles beneath, right? I will tell you that I've been surprised. I used to think I knew all the areas that I was losing product in when I was a store manager back in the old days in retail. And there have been times when a department would show up that didn't make any sense. And then I would have to go investigate it and find out what was really going on there and fix the shrink problem, right? So it's a good idea to dig in and analyze your reports. If you're a V8 person and you've been playing with V8 reports forever, you probably can do this without my help. But I can, if we want to, set reports up for anybody that might want some. And this the demo copy just isn't working on the report side, and that was kind of an extra bonus thing anyway. So that's physical inventory, start to finish, right? You start it, you count it, you look at your discrepancies, and you update. That's physical inventory. And definitely you want to be ready. I cannot emphasize enough the preparation. You don't want to have a whole team of people standing around with nothing to do while you're trying to get the hardware to work, right? So if you have scanners, check them the week before, check them the day before. Make sure you have your map ready, that you know the areas are tagged, that, slat wall, you run a piece of tape down the middle and separate your zone if it's too big, just have all your ducks in a row, right? be ready to do the count. There's nothing worse than not being ready. Anyway, again, this has been Jeff at the Big Hairy Dog, going through physical inventory for version 8, which is actually very much similar to every other version, and we're going to do that again. Nice. So the structure is clean, though. It's solid. The 4 steps exist in both 8 and 9 and in Prism. So the concepts we've gone over today are very much transferable, really, to any other version of Retail Pro, and really any other. I mean, that's the same 4 steps we did when I was in regular retail. We just didn't use Retail Pro, right? So thanks again for watching, and hope you guys find this useful. Contact again me, Jeff K at Big Hairy Dog, or service at Big Hairy Dog, or tech at BigHairyDog.com. Any of those email addresses would work, and we could get you, if you need doc designs, we have them a long time. We've had these doc designs around for a long time, and I could help you with reports if you want to. All right, well, I'm going to say thank you very much for participating in our little webinar today, and have a good one. See ya.